If you're an indie studio that's struggling with all things related to social media, well, today is your lucky day because in today's video, I'm going to break down and provide you a complete A to Z blueprint guide on how to handle your social media so eventually you can increase your wish list on Steam and eventually transition that over into more sales and more financial stability, not just for your studio, but for you and your employees and subcontractors. Let's get started. Before we begin, just as a disclaimer to everyone watching this is going to be a lengthy video just because when I started writing out the script for this video, I wanted to provide you as much detail and just juice and meat as possible when it came to social media marketing, so you had a complete guide on what to do every single day of the week so you can increase awareness around your game. So without further ado, no more talking, let's get straight into the tips. Let's go. So when it comes to social media marketing, there's a few foundational elements that you have to understand before we ever discuss what type of content to post on a daily basis. On day one, you really should be focusing on how to optimize your social media profiles. So choose which platforms that you're going to participate on. In all honesty, this is the number one question I get asked, what platforms you should be on. Listen, if you've listened to any of the other GDC talks, they all say the same thing. TikTok and Twitter are the big ones because that's predominantly where the gaming community is. But I've seen game studios that primarily utilize Facebook and Facebook groups to market their games, and they're doing very successful, and their studio has been stable for many, many years. So ultimately, there is a balance between what platforms are you passionate about versus where's your target audience at. So think about what type of game you're creating, what type of games have you created in the past, where's that demographic at, what platform are they on, and then make the judgment call on what platforms you should choose. But I will say one thing, do not overwhelm yourself with having to feel like you have to be on every single social media platform. Remember, you're not a AAA studio. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you're probably a first-time game developer. You probably have a couple years underneath your belt, a couple games underneath your belt. It is better, in my opinion, from years of doing this with other companies, it is better, in my opinion, to focus on one or two platforms max that you're really passionate about, that you love spending time on. Remember, every social media platform has its pros and cons, but just picking one or two of the ones that you honestly enjoy and putting 100% of your energy into that will give you better returns of your investment, which is your time in this case, versus splitting your time between 7 different platforms. Make sure if you are on multiple platforms that everything is cohesive among them. Make sure the display picture is the same. Make sure the cover banner is the same. Make sure the bio section and the about section is the same. Make sure that even on most of the time you can post the exact same content and it's perfectly okay. So remember to try to keep everything as cohesive as humanly possible so you don't ultimately confuse your audience. One of the other questions I get asked a lot is, should you make your social media accounts in your studio's name or keep it as a personal account, or even create individual accounts for every single game title? In my personal experience, if you're a younger developer, if have only a couple of games to your name, remember, you're not a AAA studio. Your game is probably not known worldwide like an Apex Legends or a League of Legends or something of that nature. One thing that I've really suggest to a lot of the indie companies that I do consulting with is make sure that you create your brand and create your social media accounts preferably around your indie studio, because a couple of things. This really helps with cross-promoting other titles that you've done in the past. So it makes it for very seamless marketing efforts. On top of the cross-promoting benefits of having your social media accounts under your studio's name versus the game, it makes things a lot less stressful for you because it's less accounts for you to manage in total. Remember, if you have created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 titles within the last several years, are you seriously going to manage all those Discord servers? Are you going to manage all those email subs? Are you going to manage all those different social media accounts across all those different platforms and games? Realistically, your time is probably limited enough because you're probably a very small studio, maybe even a one-man team. You don't have a lot of bandwidth in your schedule. So you really have to optimize the heck out of your time and really focus on where you're spending your hours every single day. So focusing on just an indie studio platform and your Discord server, that is more than enough for you to achieve the success that you ultimately want. But one of the biggest tips that I can provide for you is there is nothing worse than, as a gamer myself, when I go to a game studio's Twitter or TikTok page and the posts are very inconsistent. It makes me think that the indie studio, maybe they went out of business or they stopped updating the game. So it causes me to hesitate as a consumer myself, whether I want to spend my hard-earned money on your game or not. So I always tell these other indie companies that I work with, please post, even if it's just twice a week on your social media accounts, just frequently posting and interacting with your community, even if it's just 30 minutes a day, just replying to comments, engaging with other gamers, giving compliments to other developers, spending just 30 minutes a day engaging with community can really help boost the algorithm in your favor, but also it shows that you're present, alive, and you're updating your game frequently. Also, this goes without saying, but please include links to your social media accounts in your Discord server on your Steam page. You'd be surprised how often I see companies not include this. Just from a marketing perspective, if somebody doesn't add your content to their wish list page, you want to increase as many marketing touch points as possible. So when people are trying to look more into your game and the features and whether it's a game for them or not, they will navigate to your website, your Discord server, or your social media channels. So having those built out and included on your Steam page will really help you in the long run. Also, just as a free tip, on the bio section of your social media profiles, please include the hook of your game. Many of you probably know what a hook is, but just in case this is the first time that you're hearing this, your hook is literally in 5 words or less is what the game is about, who it's for, what the genre of it is, and why someone should be enticed by your game. Your hook, in preferably 5 words or less, tells the consumer whether this game is right for them or not. Some examples of this includes the indie game Choo Choo Charles that saw millions and millions of YouTube trailer hits within the first 24 hours. Their hook on their social media page at the time was literally Spider Train. It was literally that. And just the term of readers and consumers seeing Spider Train, that hooked the mystery behind the game, so it caused them to look more into the game and add the game to their wish list accounts. Other examples of this is Cult of the Lamb, which has seen worldwide success now, but their hook was Stardew Valley with a cult or create your own hell. That was basically the hook of their game. So think of what prior games most gamers are pretty knowledgeable about. Think of worldly renowned games, but then what is your unique spin that you're taking to that game? This is something that you're going to think of and take your time on, but preferably add the hook onto all the bio sections of your game so gamers immediately see it and can resonate with it, and it can spark their curiosity. Now, let's talk about my personal first love. Branding. It is one of the things that most indie studios completely neglect because they think it doesn't serve them any purpose, because branding is typically seen as a service-based business thing that they focus on. Branding in 2024 is as relevant now as it ever will be, and every studio needs to prioritize this. I cannot preach this enough. If there's one thing you take away from this video, what is your branding? What is the branding for your studio, and what is the branding for you as a creator personally? This is what's going to help you stand apart from the crowd of other indie studios, the crowd of other games, the crowd of other content creators that are all vying for viewership and people to pay attention to their products or services. Branding is basically how people see you visually online. It's everything from your colors to your typography to the images that you use to the verbiage and the messaging and the tonality that you use online. This is where PR comes into play, and having a very knowledgeable person on your team that knows or has a background in PR becomes a huge benefit to you. One great example of this that you can all refer to is the game Nightingale. It has some mixed reviews online, but it has seen a lot of success sales-wise, so we can't ignore it. So if you look over on their social media profiles or their website, you can clearly see what their brand messaging is. You know what their attitude is, you know what type of gamer they're trying to attract, you know what their colors and typography is, and they are consistent with every single social media post. They use the same colors of this blue blue, gold, Art Deco style theme all across their social media and their website. This is consistent branding. They use this golden frame, and in their brand messaging, they're constantly reviewing their followers as realm walkers, I believe, but this really targets the audience. So even if you took away the logo of Nightingale and just posted whatever imagery, gameplay footage that they wanted to, even if you included just the colors and the golden frame and you said realm walkers on all of the social media posts, gamers that are familiar with this would immediately know that this post was about the game Nightingale. That's the goal of effective branding, is if you take away your logo off all your posts, are viewers still able to recognize your brand specifically? So think about, what are your brand colors of your studio? What is the brand messaging? What's your logo? If this is all stuff that you need to work on, I highly suggest that you work on your brand identity before ever touching social media. Mainly because it'll make you look more professional and more trustworthy down the road. We know from recent studies, 7 out of 10 consumers all will buy from brands and companies that they know and trust and are familiar with. And a lot of this, according to the studies, has to do with your visual appearance online. If you look like a professional brand, if you look like a professional company, it will greatly increase the percentage chance that a consumer will buy from you just because they trust you. That being said, I actually want to take a pause and go back to the social channels and specifically talk about 2 platforms, TikTok and YouTube. At the time of this filming, TikTok specifically might potentially facing a US ban, so we don't know what the future holds for TikTok, but as of right now, TikTok is the best platform for organic reach if you're not going to do any types of paid advertising. Paid advertising is great, but I've seen brands that never touch brand advertising and they sell thousands and millions of units of their game. However, it is just simply important for your general information so you can make the judgment call whether you want to be on these platforms or not. I would highly suggest jumping on TikTok while you can, just because it helps with the organic reach, where you could post one clip of your game and get thousands, if not, there's some indie titles that have gotten millions of views based around just their first video alone. It will take some consistency. Granted, remember, that's an anomaly that doesn't always happen, but there's plenty of companies that I've consulted for that are outside the gaming industry, and they literally, within their first 3, 4, 5 TikTok videos, without having any idea what they're doing, their platform blows up because TikTok is just pushing out content left and right. So it might be to your benefit to focus some of your attention on TikTok, but as a healthy alternative, if there is that ban, you might want to focus on jumping over to Instagram Reels, because that's the second alternative, or that's the safe alternative if TikTok does get banned. The organic reach on the Reels versus TikTok videos, they're very similar. TikTok, that I've noticed, is a little bit more than Instagram, but then I've seen some content creators really boast about Instagram and not TikTok. So just do what's best for you. But also the second platform that I really want to focus on, and this ties into our branding conversation, is utilizing YouTube. One of the reasons the game Choo Choo Charles was so wildly successful despite mixed reviews, the developer of Choo Choo Charles, he vlogged and posted very frequent videos onto his YouTube channel throughout several years as he was developing Choo Choo Charles. So then by the time it came for the launch of the game, he had hundreds of thousands of subscribers that he promoted on his personal page to, that instantly saw Choo Choo Charles, and you saw the Steam numbers skyrocket because of it. So you might want to think, even if you don't want to start your own YouTube channel as an indie studio, just starting your own developer journey video series could be really beneficial. One of the things that, and this might be a free golden nugget for you all, one of the things that I just don't see enough people do on YouTube, especially within the indie gaming space, is I just don't see a lot of developers showcasing the behind the scenes of the process of developing a game, a day in the life of an indie developer. We see a few videos of that, but they're typically one-offs. It could be a huge opportunity for you to, if you get rid of that introvertedness and that shyness that you experience, just to turn on your iPhone camera, put it in the corner of the room, and just talk about your development process, sharing the struggles that you're having in life. And I promise you, If there is anything that I've known about the gaming industry, it is very loving and it's very community driven. So when somebody's struggling, we all jump on board to help one another. So take advantage of that. Start your own YouTube channel, start vlogging, start sharing your experience, get creative, and just watch as your channel builds for the next several years. Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So don't seek instant gratification. It's not realistic. But if you're patient and you focus on being consistent on YouTube for years and years and years, every game that you launch, you're going to have this track record and this trust with your viewership and your followers, and they are going to have so much trust for you. It's going to be very easy, or at least easier, for them to open up their wallets and invest into your studio and your games. Now that we got the fundamentals established, let's move on to the actual categories of your various posts. There are 3 main social media post categories that you have to understand. There are educational posts, there are motivational posts, and there's entertainment-based posts. Entertainment-based posts do simply the best online because, let's face it, in this dark world that a lot of us are facing right now, a lot of us just want to escape reality and be entertained. So funny memes are really going wild right now. Even in the gaming space, there are content creators, shout out to the community management team over at that manage the Cult of the Lamb game. They're doing phenomenal work. If you follow any of their TikTok videos, they will make you laugh endlessly with their content. So take inspiration from these developers that do this stuff very, very well. But remember to mix up your content as well with motivational and educational based content. The educational based content can be around the day in the life of an indie developer. It can show you your Unity, Unreal, whatever game engine that you're utilizing for your game. When you're just starting to grow your social media channels, you should be primarily focused on building your overall brand awareness and just increasing your follower counts. Do not focus so much on hard selling. I see it all the time with gaming studios that have just a couple hundred followers. One of the reasons they have just a couple hundred followers is because they're just pitching their products all day long. Buy my merchandise, buy this DLC, buy this game, look into this t-shirt. It becomes obnoxious. Remember Gary Vee's approach. If you guys ever watch his content, always remember jab, 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 left hook. Jab, 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 left hook basically means provide value, provide those little touch points, provide those little nuggets of information, motivational entertainment to the viewers to really get their eyes on you, and then go in for that hard left or right hook where you completely get their attention with the hard sell. Basically, salesy type posts only need to be about 10% of the total amount of posts that you do. Remember, people want to be entertained. They go to social media to escape reality. They don't want to be bombarded with a bunch of sales. You being 100% salesy online is basically the same thing as a solicitor coming to your front door, bothering you on a Saturday morning, trying to get you to buy their vacuum or their solar panels. It's very obnoxious. It's very rude. It's very abrupt. They haven't built any trust or relationship with you. So why should you buy from them? It's all very sleazy. And this is where the bad taste of sales goes into a lot of people's mouths. So if you approach things from a perspective where you just want to add value to the community, you want to entertain them, you just want to help them escape reality, you want them to laugh, smile, be happy, then you're doing things right. So always remember, the vast majority, specifically 90% of your content is just value. 10% is the sales, leading people to your Steam page, leading people to your Discord server, leading people to your website or your email list or whatever you choose. And when it comes to mixing up your content, be sure that primarily the majority of your posts are all video-based content. Once again, you're going to have to break out of that shell. You're going to have to showcase and spend a little bit more time within your clips that you share online, and be ready for that judgment and those people to drop those comments. But I promise you it'll be worth it, just because in according to the algorithm, as of right now, at the timing of this video, videos do dramatically 10x better than static images. It doesn't mean you don't post static images. There are indie studios that I'm working with that are very early on in their development, and they're still working with their VFX departments and things like that. So all they have is concept art. By all means, post what you can, but as soon as you can, please start posting video-based content, even if it's a short little 2-3 second something, just because it's going to help with your organic reach so much more than just posting a static image. Also, if you're struggling with coming up with social media posts and what type of content to produce, drop a comment, get connected with me online. I'm more than happy to give you a couple of ideas as well. Let's move on to the best practices when it comes to social media posting. There's a couple of rules to live by. The very first one that I'll add, and it's very controversial, leave all personal, negative, non-gaming related content off of your social media accounts. If you're really passionate about your faith, if you're very passionate about politics or the current events of this world, there's nothing wrong with that, but leave that to your personal accounts, not your indie studio accounts, not your indie game accounts. Keep things separate between personal and business. I see gaming studios do this all the time. We have to remember, despite whatever your personal beliefs are, nobody has the right to judge you. But if you have a very controversial point of view or you plant your flag on a particular political side, you automatically eliminate 50% of your audience that would potentially purchase your game. We have to remember, you are operating a business. You are a professional now. It's time to start taking things seriously. Stop playing these games. Stop talking about politics on your business accounts. It is just not worth it in the end. The second point that I would add is make sure you are very strategic with who you communicate to online on your indie studio profile. The reason behind this is the social media algorithms are always trying to figure you out and where to showcase your content. If you, as a gaming studio, are constantly interacting with other gaming studios, or you're interacting with your friends and family, people that typically probably wouldn't buy your game anyways, it's just going to show your content to that exact same audience. And we have to remember, a lot of times other indie companies, AAA studios, our favorite gaming IPs, their content creators are not interacting with the smaller content creators. They're probably not interacting with the indie studios. And they're probably realistically not going to buy your game unless you've built up that trust and that relationship and that friendship with those studios. In that case, they could buy your game, but primarily it's not seen that often. So be sure when you are engaging with your audience online, if an indie studio or a friend or a family member comments on one of your posts, obviously interact with them. But when it comes to discoverability, you always want to interact with other gamers or people that have shown an interest in your game or shown an interest in that particular genre. Social media best practices tip number 3. Remember to keep your captions short and sweet. You creating this novel or these long paragraphs explaining your game, nobody's going to read that. Save that for the devlogs that you post on your website for your diehard fans. And also, it goes without saying, don't take yourself too seriously. Yes, you are a business, so there is a level of professionalism that you should hold at all times. But remember, the gaming community is very chill for the most part. Just don't be afraid to be authentic online. If people don't like you, they weren't meant to follow you. Trust me, you're not going to attract every single person on this planet. Not every single person on this planet is going to like you or your business or your games. Just be as authentic as possible, and it really helps develop trust within your local community. One posting idea that did very well for, I believe it's called Keen Studios, the developers of Enshrouded, they generated over 2 million players within just the first few weeks of the game's launch. And one of the ways they were able to do this is once a demo very early on was available in their development process, they took this demo and they shared it with a bunch of different YouTube content creators that had anywhere from a smaller following of 10,000 subscribers all the way to very large accounts with multi-million subscribers. what they did was they just encouraged them to film themselves playing the game and just share their experience and to create a YouTube video based around that. And when these content creators created their YouTube videos around the demo of Enshrouded, what the developers did, or their social media marketing team, they took the YouTube videos and then they shared it on their own platform. So it created this partnership between the YouTube content creator and the game studio, and they were sharing each other's content, and it created this mutual respect, this sort of business partnership between the two, and it helped both companies, or both content creators in the studio, it helped both their audience grow from that, because they were able to tap into potential audience members that they didn't have previously. So that is a phenomenal posting idea. So if you haven't checked out the social media channels of Enshrouded, I highly encourage you to do so. Best practices, tip number 4 or 5. I forget which one we're on right now. But one of the questions I get asked all the time is when you should start up your social media accounts and start advertising and marketing for your game. There really is no sort of set guide to this. I've seen development studios that showcase their games on Twitter 3 or 4 months before the launch and they do successful. And then there's others that do it for 3 years. Just to proceed on the side of caution, I would highly encourage you to start up your social media accounts as early as possible. Once again, remember, it takes time to develop your following. It takes time to build up the brand of your indie studio. And remember, a lot of the times when these smaller studios launch their Twitter accounts or TikTok accounts 3 or 4 months before a particular popular game launches, they typically have a following from another platform that they carry over. I forget which game it was called now. It's completely blown my mind. But there was an India-based game developer that started a YouTube channel, and he was doing YouTube videos for like 5 or 6 years. And then he started his Twitter account literally 90 days before his game launched in the US. And he used this humongous following that he had on YouTube, and he promoted it. And guess what? He sold millions of copies within the first week. So remember too, it takes a while to build up your brand. So the earlier, the better. I would start posting videos. I would pick and choose your platforms that you're going to be on and just start today with the content that you have. Remember, the gaming community is very chill, very receptive, very loving. Even if it's just concept art, even if you're just sharing your storyline ideas and the narrative approach, gamers love this stuff. They love feeling that they're behind the scenes and they're seeing behind the curtain. Gamers love this type of stuff. So I encourage you to start posting, even if you don't have that much material to work with. Start building your brand today. One of the last tips for social media best practices that I could provide to you is, please, once the game actually launches, post-launch, be sure you're still communicating with your audience. Be sure that you're engaging and commenting and replying to all your comments. Be sure that you're engaging with your Discord server. Be sure post-launch that you are providing updates about your game, your indie studio, what's next for your studio. You spent all this time building up your brand and building up awareness around your respective games. You want to keep your audience in the loop and not ever allow them to feel like they've been deserted. I see this so often that gaming studios just go dormant and they disappear and they ghost their audience for 3, 6, sometimes over a year or 2 at a time. And then when they come back to their following, they're not getting as much engagement as they used to, because gamers are very emotional. We get burned. We have this loyalty, particularly these brands, these IPs that we love and trust. And if we feel like we've been ghosted, if you come back to us after a year or 2 without a good excuse as to why you ditched us, we're not going to be receptive to accept you back and start engaging with your content again. I never want to see you get into this type of situation. So make sure you're always communicating with your audience, even once again, even if it's 15, 20, 30 minutes a day, just to let your audience know that you're there. All right, guys, we're almost to the end. These are my final thoughts. I know there is so much more that we could dive into when it comes to social media marketing. If you guys, one of the ideas that I've been contemplating is developing just a humongous PDF guide that shows you what to post every single day of the week, when to post, and just have that complete breakdown so you never know any day that you wake up what you should be doing. I've seen this in the past when I developed marketing calendars for studios, that this really helps helps provide a lot of clarity. So if that would be useful to you, please let me know by posting in the comments. But in closing, there's just a couple of things that I want you guys to remember. It's number one, if any marketer tells you that they've hacked the algorithm, or if they know in certain how to manipulate the social media platforms, that they can guarantee that you can go viral, no such thing exists, and that is a huge red flag that you should run in the other direction. Do not hire any freelance marketer or onboard any employee that is a marketer for your respective indie studio that says these type of things. The algorithm on these very Meta and other social media platforms, they're changing every single day, all the time. Even the people, there's been interviews with people that work at Meta, and it's hilarious because the conversation starts going about, you know, tips and tricks when it comes to the algorithm. And even the people that work at Meta are like, dude, I don't know. It's constantly changing. Like, even they don't freaking know. So what makes you think that that marketer knows as well? So if a marketer guarantees that they can make your post go viral, or they know this infinite knowledge about the algorithm, run in the other direction. And also remember, social media is just one marketing touch point. There are so many other things that you could be doing with your time. And what really increases the chances of you launching a successful IP is if you balance your time between multiple marketing touch points. You have that email subscription, you have that Discord server, you're doing gaming events, you're doing live online presentations through Zoom, you're doing paid marketing, or you're doing paid Google ads. You know, you're doing these multiple different things that can gather in all these different set of eyeballs that typically wouldn't see your content online. Because believe it or not, I know it's 2024, a lot of people are still very limited on time, especially in today's society, but there's a huge demographic that doesn't like social media. There's a huge demographic that doesn't like Discord. There's a huge demographic that doesn't go to live events. There's a huge audience that will never click on your paid ad online. So you have to try out multiple things to try to see what will be most successful for the launch of your game. The final thing that I'll add is, despite this huge video that I have no idea how long it's going to be, there was a lot of information shared, and I barely just scratched the freaking surface, y'all. So when I get into conversations about social media marketing and start sharing the juicy, meaty details of it, it can create a huge sense of overwhelm and anxiety, just because there's so much stuff to understand when it comes to the world of social media. And remember, there are college degrees dedicated to social media marketing. People can go to college for 4 years for social media marketing, and there's still people with these college degrees that I've worked with other companies that still are learning every single day about this giant of a world that we live in. So I know it's easier said than done, but don't get anxious. At the bare minimum, there's a couple of things that I want you to follow always. Number one, lean towards posting frequent video-based content, just because, like I said previously, this really helps with organic reach and for you to reach as many eyeballs as humanly possible. That's number one. Bare minimum, video-based content, post frequently. Even if it's once or twice a week, just do something. Number two, interact with your community. Do not allow your social media accounts to go dormant. Comment, follow people that might be interested in your game, encourage them and invite them to participate in your playtest, your early access, your game demos, whatever. Just be a face in the community and interact with them frequently. And tip number three, just be consistent. This typically is the most difficult part that indie studios struggle with, just because you're locked into crunch and you're focused on hitting important milestones and you're deep into the development process, and people just forget and they put social media on the back burner. Please be consistent. Set alarms on your phone, put it on your Trello board, put it on whatever other productivity app that you utilize. But even if it's just 30 minutes a day, wake up early in the morning, do it late in the evening once the workday's done, and just interact with the community, post a video or two, and you will be good. If you guys are struggling with your social media marketing, I encourage you, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you're struggling with so I know what type of content to produce. And let me know if you have any specific questions related to today's video, and I'll spend some time in the comments and just interact with you guys and just be as helpful as I can. But until the next video, I'll see you next time, guys. Peace.